Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I'm here to talk about The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This was originally published in 1970 and I believe this edition was published by Plume in 1994. This edition has 216 pages. I buddy read this with lovely Lauren over at Glowing Reviews 90, which if you aren't watching her videos already, she's one of those magical people who can do a well thought out, eloquent video in one take. You need to watch her. This was actually my pick for Black History Month, which was back in February, but I finished it at the very beginning of March. This is Toni Morrison's very first novel, and unlike Burial Rites that I talked about yesterday, this book very much felt like a first novel. Don't get me wrong, it is very well executed and very well written. I'm assuming that her work only gets better. The Bluest Eye centers mostly around a young girl named Pecola Breedlove. The novel begins from the perspective of two other little girls in her neighborhood that are about her same age, whose family had to take her in after her father, I believe, set fire to their house. While staying there, she becomes obsessed with this glass that has a picture of Shirley Temple's face on it, and her and the older sister that live in the house talk about how beautiful Shirley Temple is. Pecola is kind of understood to be a very unattractive young girl, and she thinks that if only she had blue eyes, then she would be beautiful. The book goes from Pecola's perspective and terrible things that end up happening to Pecola. Something is alluded to at the very beginning of the book, which I won't tell you. Something very awful, so if you're sensitive to any kind of abuse, you might want to stay away from this book, but it's alluded to at the beginning of the novel, and it's kind of led up to during the whole novel, but we get glimpses of Pecola's life and other people in the neighborhood, including the little girls that she stays with at the beginning, and also we get to see backstories or flashbacks of her parents. As you could probably deduce, Pecola doesn't come from a very stable home. Her father is kind of an alcoholic, kind of abusive, so that makes for a very hostile home environment. Not to mention, she is bullied quite often because of her looks. This novel has so much pain in it. To me, it was a novel about the cycle of pain, because you see these terrible things that happened to her parents, and that kind of inherently got passed down and cycled into her own life. This novel was kind of confusing to me because I don't know if it was supposed to be about that, or if it was about the pursuit of beauty and how it can drive you to insanity. But for me, it was mostly about the pain. And after reading it, I talked to Lauren about it, and she pointed out something that makes this book very tragic. This young girl, very young girl, is going through all of these terrible things, but no one can really be there for her because they are so busy being consumed by their own pain. As I said, this book definitely felt like a first novel because there were bits that were choppy, and like I said, I wasn't really sure what her intentions were, and after reading the afterword by Toni Morrison, I was even more confused. But overall, the writing is 100% beautiful. Like, there are terrible things that happen in this book that are written so poetically that you kind of forget that this thing that's happening is traumatic and abusive and awful. So that being said, I will definitely be reading more Toni Morrison in the future. Speaking of reading Toni Morrison, Ellie over at the Bibliophile is doing this excellent project where she is attempting to read all of the Toni Morrison books in 2014. I believe she's using the hashtag ReadMorrison2014. I will leave a link to that video down below. Also, I'll leave a link to her review of The Bluest Eye as well. I hope that this was a helpful review. I do recommend reading this book. I don't know if this is the best place to start with Morrison since it is my first, but I enjoyed it. If you've read The Bluest Eye, please let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll have one more women's book talk for you tomorrow.